What's up, gang? Primal here, and welcome to my studio. Every creative needs a place that they can retreat to when it's time to create their art. If you're an artist, music producer, content maker, or entrepreneur who has or wants to have a dope home studio, this video is for you. In this video, I will be showing you my entire studio inside and out from every angle. I have worked very hard on it over the years and I'm pretty proud of it. This isn't my dream setup, but it's a highly functional, purpose-driven space, and I thought you might enjoy taking a look around to see more about how and where I do my creative work. Before we dive in, if you don't know who I am yet, my name is Ian and I go by the artist name Primal Optics. I'm an entrepreneur and music producer, and this is my personal brand channel where I create a wide variety of content here. So if you dig this video, be sure to subscribe, turn on notifications to get updates on my new content when I create it. And with that out of the way, let's jump into the studio. So I run all of my operations out of this space, and it serves me pretty well in this season of life. I will eventually grow out of it, but for now, this is where the magic happens. It's 220 square feet if you include the front porch area, but it's also got 2 lofts on each side. I purchased this building as a shell from Old Hickory Buildings, and just as a side note, please be very careful if you choose to finance one of these types of buildings through them or any other company that sells these types of buildings. The interest rates are typically stupidly high and they aren't very easy to work with, nor did they really seem to value me as a customer. So try not to finance it if possible, but if you do have to finance, the monthly payments are pretty cheap. Mine ended up being about $200 a month for this particular building. I did pay it off way early though to avoid massive amounts of interest. I spent somewhere around $3,000 to $4,000 finishing it out initially, and I've put a little bit more into it since then when I built my vocal booth and some of the other features that you'll see throughout. It arrives as a framed up shell, so we installed electrical, we did drywall, the lighting, and all of that good stuff. And for the flooring, I simply just poly coated the floor, but if I could go back and do it all over again, I would have definitely applied at least a few more coats of poly or went with some other type of flooring altogether, because after years and years of use, the floors definitely don't look as nice as they did at first. This was, a cheap option and it still looked pretty great, so that's what I went with. My small loft is for deep storage of things that I don't really need all that frequently, and I turned the big loft into a gaming clubhouse for our kiddos to chill in.
Hey guys, check out the clubhouse.
I built this when they were just babies, so I had to figure out a way to prevent them from falling out. So I put together this little cage-like structure with a gate to keep them safe. My electrical panel is also installed up there. Now, heating and cooling this space is pretty simple. I've got a small standard plug-in heater that keeps the space pretty warm in the wintertime, and during the summer months, I keep it cool with a simple small window AC unit. I do have to pretty much run it constantly though during the summer to keep it under control, otherwise it gets way too hot in here. Starting over on the far side of the room, we've got my mod wall from Tactical Walls and workbench. This is where I keep some of my gear, some product storage, and our shipping setup. I built this shelf up top to hold some of my packaging material, and I also built this additional shelf on top of the workbench to be a little cubby to put other small things into. Underneath the bench is where I keep some more of our merch, my snake, Archibald Witwicky, and my printer and network devices. Over here we have the futon, a must-have for the studio for guests. I occasionally have people stay over when we're working, so not only can they take advantage of all the loft space up top, but they can also lay out the couch too. We have some guitars up on the walls here. My electric is a Washburn and my acoustic is a Takamine. I think Takamine actually went out of business or they sold to another company or something like that, but it is a great sounding acoustic guitar. Beside the couch is my metal tray rack, and I use it for more small product storage like stickers, some flashlights, neck gaiters, printer stock, some miscellaneous tech and cables and whatnot. Beside the rack is my Line 6 amp and my tech wall. I used to have a bunch of cameras and lenses and other filming gear all over these shelves, but over time, I downsized my filming kit a little bit, so that stays inside of my EDC bag now. Side note here, I also run another channel called Mask Tactical where we do survival and preparedness training videos, and we also do some gear reviews over there, and I've reviewed a lot of bags over the years, and I have to say, this is by far the best bag that I've ever used for EDC. Let me know if you guys want me to do a separate video on this to break it down. This is the Boundary Supply Primal system. It is a super dope pack. If you guys would be down for that, let me know and I'll make another video on it. So now on these shelves, instead of camera gear, I just keep a few art pieces here now, and below the shelves is my charging station that I mounted. Shout out to Becky and Chris for the inspiration here. Be sure to check out their channel. They make a lot of dope content. It's a metal pegboard, and you just mount it and run all of your wires behind it, and it makes for a very clean aesthetic for all of your chargers. It also has these nifty magnetic metal trays, but that costs extra. It doesn't come with the pegboard. Over here on the opposite wall is my workstation. It's a completely custom-built desktop on an autonomous standing desk frame. I am all about the pirate lifestyle, and I wanted something that looked like it came out of a wrecked ship. So I beat this thing with a hammer, some screwdrivers, I whipped it with chains, I took a torch and burned it all to pieces, and I did my best to make it look distressed. I even added these bolts and metal trim pieces to give it that extra edge. Now, being a music producer, I also need some extra space for all of my hardware, so I built this desktop stand here with a bunch of extra cubbies in it to keep everything organized. I also tried to stick with the pirate theme for it, as you can see. Over here on the left-hand side, we've got my EDC tray and my Focusrite audio interface. In the middle sits my Akai MPK Mini MIDI keyboard. And over on the right, I have an Orba by Artifon, some fingerboards, and some other fidget stuff. I have extreme ADHD, so fidget toys are a must for me. And then my hard drives are down in the bottom. I currently use one for active storage and another one for my backup archive. It's not the best setup, it will be improving. My desktop is a 2015 iMac that's always teasing death, so I can't wait to upgrade that next. I've also got this 15-year-old Acer side monitor too. It used to be a 3-display setup, but my other one died, so we're just rocking 2 now. My speakers are some cheap Logitechs, but honestly, they sound pretty great and they get the job done, and most of the time I'm in my headphones anyway. We've also got some salt lamps and, of course, LEDs everywhere. All these wires were definitely a pain to manage, but I undermounted everything to keep it as clean as possible. I probably could have done a little bit better job with it, but there's only one main cable that's needed to drop down, so it stays pretty clean. I've also got these raceways underneath, my subwoofer, the Dymo label printer, and a big USB hub down here. My computer setup is definitely not the best, but it has served me pretty well over these years. My next setup will be much better and much cleaner. I plan to fully spec out a MacBook and have it docked here with some better displays, better hard drive setup, with maybe even some network attached storage solutions. I'm not really sure yet how I'm gonna go about that, but it's coming. It's all a process, right? This shit takes time, guys, but we will get there, my friends. Make no mistake, this stuff is not acquired overnight. It takes time. My plan for the MacBook is to also have another audio interface, such as an Apollo, inside of my booth. That way I can just unplug from the dock, take it in the booth, and lock in without having to come in and out constantly when I'm tracking vocals. Speaking of vocals, the mic that I'm currently rocking right here is the Shure MV7. I do plan to put an SM7B or something even better inside the booth in the future, but for now, I just take it in and out when I need to. I track a lot of demos right here in front of the computer, and when I need to lay down the official track, I move it into the booth to get the cleanest recording that I can. Over here, I've also got some Skullcandy headphones, like I said, an old Logitech webcam. Again, not the best stuff, but it does work for now. Behind my desk is a custom shiplap style wall that I stained and painted a Viking Vegvisser on, which is considered to be the Viking compass. I'm pretty fascinated by that culture, so I like a lot of that stuff. I put a net over top of it to add to that pirate theme, and up above that is another custom shelf for some plants and whatnot. I've got 2 of these shelves on both sides of the building. Moving on over to the left-hand side of the computer is my full-size Casio PXS1000, and another shelf for some plants and some of my books. And then we've got a mini fridge tucked back in the corner here with this dope steampunk light that my wife found at Hobby Lobby, I believe. And finally, the thing you've probably all been waiting for, my custom DIY vocal booth. This was a fun but challenging project. I built the walls up, insulated them with Rockwell soundproofing insulation, and then I covered every inch of the walls with 7-inch bass traps in all of the corners and 2-inch diamond pattern foam everywhere else. I also put some carpet down on the floor, installed a little mic shield shelf here, and over time I'll have another small shelf in the corner to hold my MacBook and my audio interface. It does get very hot in here very fast, so I need to figure out a good way to cool it without compromising the sound quality. I've got some pretty good ideas for this, so I'll probably make another video on it in the future. This is a challenge that all studios have. It's very expensive to build out a properly soundproofed booth that includes heating and cooling. However, this setup works pretty great for now. I've got some long audio cables snaked out to my desk to the interface right now, but again, eventually, this will all be self-contained within the booth itself. One of the challenges with this booth was also the fact that there was a window here. So what I did was insulate it just like I did the walls, and I covered it with plywood. That's why it sticks out on the inside. It looked a little ugly on the outside too, looking at all that insulation. So I had my good friend CJ Halleck, aka S-Lock, who's an artist himself, wood burned my wolf logo, and we put it on the outside to cover the window up, and it looks pretty awesome. I'm really happy with how that turned out. I've gone through a lot of paint in here over the years. Matte black is one of the ones that's hard to keep looking mint, especially if you've got kids. So eventually I decided to do this awesome looking knockdown texture on the walls, and honestly it works and looks so much better in my opinion. So I think that pretty much covers the inside. Let's hop back outside. Over here, I plan to build a roof extension with a large concrete pad, and it's going to be a dope outdoor workout space. Then across from that, we've got my custom MASH tactical fire pit that my good friend David Gray, aka Swordfish, one of our tribe members, had made for one of my birthdays. I built these benches here out of cinder block and wood. They do need a fresh sand and stain though, and a touch up to some of the paint, but this is a nice little spot to hang out and write some music and just vibe out when we've got people over. It's good to get out of the studio from time to time. So why did I build all of this? Originally, my office started inside the house. It went from room to room to room, eventually into the basement, back to another room, and it was just never really enough space, and I didn't like being inside anyway. Between the kids and dogs, it was always a challenge to try to get work done inside, and I like to be loud with my music, so I didn't really want to be a problem with the wife all the time. I needed my own spot outside of the house to do all of my creative work. We weren't quite ready for a commercial space at the time, so I met in the middle, and I decided to build out this shed office, and honestly, I'm really happy with this space. It's definitely not the dream space, but I've learned a lot and I've grew a lot in this space. It's going to be sad when I have to leave it behind when we grow out of it, but for the next space, now I know a lot more about what I need and better ways to lay things out to achieve maximum function. While it does breed creativity, the challenge with such a small space when you do as much as I do is making it all fit in an efficient way. You might not realize it at first glance, but this office was also designed in such a way that I have multiple filming sets and I don't have to do anything but reposition the camera. So that's going to do it for my 2022 studio tour, my friends. I have way more plans for this space, so I will probably do another update video in the future. I've got more audio gear that I want to get, and of course the new computer setup, and a few other small things. Again, it's always a work in progress. I really hope you guys enjoyed the tour. Hopefully it might have gave you some inspiration for your own space too. If you would like more information on any of the gear or things that you saw in this video, or things that I didn't mention, be sure to check the description. I'll link everything that I can down there. And also, if you've got any questions about anything whatsoever, I want to know what those are, so please drop them down in the comment section or DM me on social media. I'm always happy to help, and I'm always looking to make new friends. If you'd like to connect with me more, you can also join the Wolfgang community for artists, producers, creators, and entrepreneurs that I've created. You can also check out my tunes on all streaming platforms. Just search for Primal Optics and look for the Wolf. That's all for this one, my friends. Catch you in the next one.
Got a little bit of a residual high. That's what happens when I look to the sky. Every day when I wake up, pray that he shakes up the way that I think of. All this hate and the fake love on the way up. Yeah, nobody go as hard as this when I'm cold with a hoe when I'm gardening. Cause I already got a queen. I'm planting all the seeds that I'm harvesting. I grow all my teams, talk about the game and I fathered it. Cause I am the one, you know I can't lose. Meet me at the top, I'm bringing all of the food. Tell me the time and the places to rendezvous. Scoped in, I'm optical. I jump over the obstacles, man. You can't be spraying and praying with no clue what your target is. Gotta have a plan to bring up all your fam. Got big dreams, might start a band. You can say I won't, but you know I can't. Don't you ever tell yourself that you can't lose. Never settle for the bottom, keep it digging. Don't you give yourself an option that you can't choose. Devil scheming steady, keeping you from winning. Don't you ever tell yourself that you can't lose. Never settle for the bottom, keep it digging. Don't you give yourself an option that you can't choose. Devil scheming steady, keeping you from winning.